Hello. Hello, Shefali. How are you?
Hello, Shivali. Very, very good evening.
हेलो, कैसे हो आप लोग?
सक्सेना
Now it's live, ma'am. You can start.
चौहान सर किधर है? देखिए सर आगे क्या?
Yes, ma'am. Sir is there.
Okay. Sir, good evening. Rashida, just start.
Shashi Kumar ji is sitting here. I just concluded my program in the morning at 3.
Yes. He was in the paper presentation. Yes, sir.
No, sir. I may start with your permission.
Good evening,
Hey,
madam.
it is my duty and right to say it. Otherwise, I would have kept
You are my chief guest, sir. You have every right to say.
Chief guest has no authority, you see, to say anything to the organizers.
Okay. So now we're going to start.
Yes.
The Honorable Vice Chancellor and in his absentia, Professor Sanjay Singh sir. Respected Professor Balraj Chauhan sir, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, DNLU, Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh, and the chief guest of today's webinar, Professor Shefali Yadav ma'am, Dean and Dr. Shakuntala Mishra, National Rehabilitation University, Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh, the keynote speaker of the webinar. Professor Priti, Director CPGLS, School of Legal Studies from Ambedkar University, patron of the webinar. Professor Priti Mishra ma'am, Head Department of Human Rights and the Director of webinar. Dr. Shashi Kumar sir, Associate Professor, Department of Human Rights and the Organizing Secretary of the webinar. Dr. Rajshri, Assistant Professor, DIET, BBAU, and the Coordinator of the program. Respected faculty members of the BBAU and other education institutions, research scholars and their students. A very good evening and warm welcome to you all in this national webinar organized by Department of Human Rights, School of Legal Studies on the theme of Saving Girl Child for Posterity and Prosperity, भावी पीढ़ी एवं समृद्धि हेतु बालिकाओं की सुरक्षा, अगर हिंदी में कहें तो, on the occasion of National Girl Child Day on 24th January 2021, that is today. With the hope that this webinar would bring awareness amongst people and create civic support to deal with the core issues of girls like survival, education, health, nutrition, and stopping crime against them. Now we formally start the program, and in this reference, I humbly invite Professor Sudarshan Verma ma'am, Dean of the School of Legal Studies, for welcoming our guest. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Rashida, and good evening to everyone who joined this webinar. Today we are celebrating National Girl Child Day. The celebration of day was an initiative of the Ministry of Women and Child Development in 2008. The objective behind celebrating the National Girl Child Day is to provide support and opportunity to the girls of India and to promote awareness about the rights of the girl child and to increase awareness on the importance of the girls' education and their health and nutrition. The purpose of celebrating this day is to bring change in the attitude towards girls. Over the years, several steps have been taken, but there are still many challenges we need to address to make the country a far better place where every girl has equal right and opportunity. On this important day, the topic of webinar chosen by the organizers is very apt, saving girl child for posterity and prosperity. It is immense pleasure indeed for me to welcome this August gathering assembled here to discuss different issues concerning girl child safety in this webinar. It is the matter of great pleasure for us that we have with us Professor Balraj Chauhan, Sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dharmshala National Law University, Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh, and Chief Guest of today's webinar, who have very graciously accepted our invitation and spared his valuable time out of his busy schedule today. We are fortunate to have you here, sir, as your deliberation will surely add value to the existing knowledge and spread awareness among the participants regarding safety, security, and protection of rights of girl child in India for their better future. I, Professor Sudarshan Verma, Dean School of Legal Studies, Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar University, Central University, Lucknow, on behalf of the university, on behalf of Department of Human Rights, and my own behalf, welcome you, sir, in this department and in the seminar and the webinar. Welcome you, sir, in the webinar. I would like to take the opportunity to express my deep appreciation to our keynote speaker of the webinar, Professor Shefali Yadav, Professor of Law and Dean and Head of Dr. National University, accepting our and gracing as a speaker. Keynote ad provides a wider base for discussion on these issues during the webinar. We are privileged to have Madam here in the webinar. This will definitely light in with your deliberation. A very warm welcome you, ma'am, in this webinar. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Sanjay Singh, in his absence here, always motivate us to organize such kind of programs. I extend a warm welcome you, sir, in your absence. I would welcome Professor Preeti Saxena, Director, Center of Postgraduate Legal Studies, for her constant guidance to the department as it came with such a relevant issue. Welcome you, ma'am. I would welcome Professor Preeti Mishra, Head Department of Human Rights, BVU Lucknow. This webinar could not have been made possible without her proactive and kind support. I welcome the Organizing Secretary, Dr. Shashi Kumar, Associate Professor, Department of Human Rights. Welcome you, sir. I welcome of the webinar, Dr. Rashida Athar, Assistant Professor, Department of Human Rights, BVU Lucknow. I also welcome Lieutenant Dr. Rashri, Coordinator of the webinar and Assistant Professor, Department of DIET, BVU Lucknow. She extends her constant technical and other supports to the organizers. I welcome you, Dr. Rashri. I welcome all the distinguished guests, respected deans, heads, and faculty members of our university and other universities and institutions, all the participants and dear students. I hope all of you will have today as most productive day of interesting and stimulating discussion, as we have eminent experts having vast experience in the field who will share their precious knowledge and experience to explore the various dimensions of this issue. I sincerely wish that this webinar will be a great success, not only as a chance to share knowledge and experience, but also as beginning of a long, fruitful cooperation among fellow educators devoted to the most meaningful and worthwhile task of teaching and training our youth, as they are the future of our country. I once again extend a very warm welcome to one and all present here. Welcome you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for welcoming all of us. On behalf of organizing committee, I also welcome you, ma'am. And now, after that, I invite Dr. Shashi Kumar, the organizing secretary of webinar and associate professor in the Department of Human Rights, to introduce the theme of the webinar with us. Dr. Shashi Kumar.
Thank you, Rashida. Good evening, all of you. Honorable Vice Chancellor Balraj Chauhan, Dharmashastra National Law University, Jabalpur. I am very delighted to see him because since yesterday he was very busy, very active in the international conference his ministry was organizing. Until around 3:30, around 3, program was there. And now again he has joined our program. Thank you, sir, for coming and joining this program, sir. I welcome you, sir, here. And Professor Sefali Yadav, Head and Dean, Shakuntala Devi, National Rehabilitation University, Lucknow. And my head and Professor Priti Saxena ma'am, and all my colleagues, delegates, and participants. Today we are celebrating, we are commemorating this day. I don't say celebrating because it's a day of commemorating. We are observing the National Girl Child Day. And because this day is observed on 24th January every year since 2008, the objective is that to generating the awareness on the issue of declining child sex ratio and creating positive environment around the values of girl child, to save the child. Today, our theme is that save girl child for posterity and prosperity. If girl is not there, the family will not develop and generation will not come up. So that's why we have decided to take this theme. And if you see the child sex ratio in the country, now earlier it was in 2001, it was 927, now declined to the 919 only. And in highest, the lowest child sex ratio is in Haryana, 834. And in Delhi, it's 868. In Uttar Pradesh, today, in the newspaper, I have seen 903. And in Bihar, 935. So this declining ratio of the girl child shows that where our society, our country is going. If you don't have the girl 50% at all, a female ratio in the country, then how will we develop the country? Moreover, I want to say that in the 3 days back, I have seen that in हरदोई में जो है एक मासूम लड़की 6 वर्षीय बच्ची के साथ दुष्कर्म किया गया, जो कि हरदोई में जिस बुधवार की रात को उस रिश्तेदार ने, और उसने जिस बच्ची को जो है शाम को दुष्कर्म किया और उसके बाद उसको मार दिया। तो इस तरह की घटनाएं जो हैं हम रोज सुनते हैं, देखते हैं कि गर्ल्स को जो है, माइनर गर्ल्स को दे आर रेपिंग, दिस वाज रेप बाय द रिलेटिव्स and child abuse cases are very much there. So ये क्या हो रहा है जो है समाज के साथ, जो है कि हम गर्ल की जो है एक गर्ल चाइल्ड को जो है एक कन्या की जो है सम्मान नहीं दे पा रहे हैं। तो इसीलिए इस जो है इस दिवस को मनाया जा रहा है, ऑब्जर्व किया जा रहा है कि लोगों के बीच हम अवेयरनेस पहुंचाएं कि जो है गर्ल को बचाएं। एंड दिस हैज सम ऑब्जेक्टिव आल्सो to increase the consciousness of the people and offer new opportunities to the girl child. गर्ल चाइल्ड को अपॉर्चुनिटी देने के लिए, उनको पढ़ाने के लिए, स्कूलों में भेजने के लिए, और उनको घर में जो है उनको मौका दिया जाए तो आगे बढ़ें। तो ये सबका दायित्व है पेरेंट्स का, स्कूल का, सोसाइटी का, कि हम गर्ल्स को जो है आगे बढ़ाएं, कन्याओं को आगे बढ़ाएं। जिस देश में कन्या की पूजा की जाती है और वहाँ इस कन्याओं को जो है मारा जा रहा है, इसको देख के मेरा दिल जो है बहुत ही दुखी हो रहा है। So these are the things. I think we have an eminent scholar here, Professor Balraj Chauhan, who is a criminal justice expert, and he is definitely going to deliberate on the issue. And we also have a eminent scholar, Sefali Yadav. She will going to speak on this topic with the family gender point of view. And we also have our own faculty who is going to deliberate on the issue. हमें लगता है कि इस पर बहुत गहन चिंता करनी चाहिए कि समाज किस तरफ जा रहा है, क्यों ऐसा हो रहा है कि जो है हम जो है गर्ल्स की तरफ सेंसिटिव दिखा रहे हैं. थैंक यू.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for introducing the theme with all of us. And though a guest does not need any kind of introduction, but since it's a matter of pleasure for all of us to get inspired and motivated by the achievements of them, so in this series, now I invite Professor Priti Mishra ma'am, the director of the webinar in the Head Department of Human Rights, to present a formal introduction of our guest, chief guest, and keynote speaker. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Rashida. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure, ever honor and pride to have Honorable Vice Chancellor from Dharmashastra Law University, Jabalpur, as chief guest of the program. For the last many times, for many months, I was trying to contact Professor Sir to have him some of the program of the department. But you all know that Sir is very, very busy, and since he's a Vice Chancellor, so sometimes they just don't have a couple of minutes to attend any program. So I could not have him here, but this time I am lucky enough to have him here. And Sir was telling that it's you that you are at fault, because you are organizing programs at a time when I am having a program in my university. So this time also, when I contacted him, he was having the international conference of 2 days, and it was a Manmouth conference, I know, because I also chaired one of the sessions. So I really apologize, sir, for troubling you a lot again and again for inviting you. But this time I think I'm lucky enough to have you here, sir, as the chief guest of the program. So before formally giving this introduction of the guest, I would also like to say a few words, because I won't get the opportunity in the program later on. So when we were deliberating the theme for this particular national webinar, suddenly in my mind, my research came into my mind, and I am very, very proud to share that Professor Balla Chauhan has been my LLD guide, and he has not only taught me in LLB, in LLM, but he has also been my PhD supervisor. So just for a second, the whole of the thesis was in front of my eyes when I was doing research, and particularly this topic of girl child. It is very, very sensitive topic, and when I was doing the literature survey, I was really very, very astonished to find the ways in which people get rid of the female fetus, because because when this technological development was not there, and this amniocentesis test and ultrasound was not there, people used to resort to absurd kind of ways to get rid of the female girl child. So in the name of female infanticide, they adopted various kinds of tactics, like giving a lot of salts to the women, to the girl child when she is born, or drowning her into the cold water, or just wrapping her in the cold wet blanket, and various other ways. So I was very, very depressed, and also very, very surprised to see that why the people want to get rid of the girl child. And that time I came out with the first of my research paper also, that was on the female girl child only. And the word that posterity that came into mind was from there only, because it was my first paper where I wrote that infanticide is a threat to posterity. And from there I got the idea of the title of this particular national seminar. And since now the girls are very, very important in a way of contributing to the economy of the country also, because we all know that, and there are studies that because of the violence only, we are losing a lot of GDP of the country. At least 2 to 3% of GDP we are losing every year because of the just having the violence against the women. Because we know that from womb to grave, a woman is facing a lot of kinds of violence, extending from a female feticide, infanticide, sexual assault, to dowry, death, cruelty, and so many kinds of violence are there. So it is really a very, very gray scene so far as violence against women is concerned. And so when I thought of this particular scheme, I thought that we should have the posterity as well as the prosperity, because when we will not have the girl child and they will not have the education and the right to work, it will adversely affect the growth and development of the country. Because if you look at the world scenario and we find that the workforce in the name of the women is also very, very less. And if you look at the data of India, we find that near about 25% women are working in the many various sectors of the economy. And so very less amount of women is there as a workforce. And whatever women are working in the workplaces, they are also facing a lots of harassment there. So the situation has been very grim so far as the girl child or the women is concerned. So it was very apt for us to think that this time we should have this topic of saving the girl child. Because if we are not going to have the girl child and we are not going to assure her the right to take birth, which is the fundamental right of any of the person who is living within the boundaries of India. And in the name of feticide, this right to life is also being denied to the girl child. So what to talk about the right to education and development and all? Because all the human rights are concomitant to each other. Enjoyment of one depends upon the other. So in order to have the country prosper and to develop in a better way, we need to have the contribution of the girls also in the growth and development of the country. So I think that intuitively we decided this theme, and because the theme was not there from the government of India, when we were looking for the theme of National Girl Child by the government of India, so it was not there 1 week before, just 2 or 3 days before they have announced this theme. And so intuitively we decided this theme that the CSR is going down day by day in India. That is the child sex ratio. And as per one of the calendars that I was looking at in the Google website, it was from 2021 to 2031. And it was showing that every year the CSR rate is going to decline. There is no any kind of hope that it will increase. Though we have so much policies of government of India of Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Janani Suraksha Yojana, and every kind of policies we are having. But because of the mindset, because of the patriarchal attitude, which is not only in the minds of the women, but not only in the minds of the men, but it is also in the minds of the women somewhere. So both the genders of any legal system, or particularly if we talk about India, they are not only men, but the women are also so much gender biased. And during the research, I found that women are more gender biased than men, because it is they who decide the sex of the child in some of the matters, that who will be going to the first child. Because the scenario has changed a lot. Women have also become vocal regarding their reproductive rights. So I find that not only the men, but women are also responsible so far as the deteriorating position or social status of the girl child is concerned. So not taking much time, because our guests are waiting, because we can discuss these things later on also. So the chief guest, we are having Professor Balla Chauhan, and he needs no introduction because he has been such a dynamic personality from his teaching days that we witnessed in the Lucknow University as LLB student. Since that, he has not changed. Not at all, sir. You have not changed. You are as energetic, as dynamic, as charming as you were in the LLB days. Yeah.
More.
Yeah. He has become more energetic. Yeah. Because he is doing a lot as far as the Vice Chancellor of this Jabalpur National University is concerned. So, formally introducing our chief guest of the program, Professor Balla Chauhan, sir. Professor Balla Chauhan is the first Vice Chancellor of Dharmashastra National Law University, Jabalpur. And before joining this university, he has served as a director, Amity Law School, Lucknow. He has been the Vice Chancellor of Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia, National Law University, Lucknow, and also the National Law Institute, University, Bhopal. He has also been a member of Uttar Pradesh State Law Commission, member of State Legal Services Authority, Uttar Pradesh, and executive member, Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute, New Delhi. Professor Chauhan has a special interest in the field of criminal law, criminology, and clinical legal education. Professor Chauhan has completed several projects funded by the state and other national and international agencies. And he is a distinguished scholar, and he was awarded with Dr. Kumarappa Reckless Award in 2009 for contributing to the field of criminology. He has received prestigious fellowships, including the Commonwealth Foundation Fellowship 2011 and Fellowship of Indian Society of Criminology. He is visiting faculty to several national universities, Judicial Training Research Institute, NIPCED, NJA, etc. He has also been associated with the National Institute of Criminology and Forensic Science of Bureau of Police and Research and Development, Ministry of Home Affairs, New Delhi. and has also visited various international universities in USA, UK, South Africa, Italy, Uganda, Philippines, and Canada as an invitee in several conferences and in other programs. He is a prolific writer and has contributed several research articles in national and international journals. He has authored 2 books and edited books on human rights. He has more than 40 years of experience of teaching and human rights. He has more than 40 years of experience of teaching and research experience. Professor Chauhan is well versed with project formulation, financial planning, budgeting of proposals, resource management, monitoring and organizing workshops, training programs, and various seminars, national and international all. Several students have also completed the LLD and PhD under his guidance. I have read only very, very brief of the CV of Professor Chauhan because his work speaks itself. His personality speaks itself. So whatever I will be saying, it will be very, very less. So thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation and coming here this time and gracing this occasion as the chief guest of the program. And we all participants are looking forward to your chief guest lecture, sir. So thank you very much, sir, once again for having you here, sir. Now, as a keynote speaker, we have Professor Dr. Shefali Yadav, and she also needs no introduction so far as legal academia is concerned. She started her career in 2001 from Bareilly College, Bareilly, as assistant professor, and since then she has served in Lucknow University. Presently, she is head and dean in Dr. Shakuntala Mishra National Rehabilitation University. And she has also been in Bhopal National Law Institute University, and in Bareilly, she worked in various capacities. And now, as I told you, that she is the head and dean of Faculty of Law, Dr. Shakuntala Mishra National Law Rehabilitation University. She took the challenge of being the founder of this Faculty of Law in this particular university, because we all know that it is a very, very special university, and the students who are coming there for the purpose of education, they are facing a lots of challenges in life. So she has been very, very apt in handling with all the problems of the students. And the areas of her research interest are jurisprudence and its allied areas of judicial process and law and social transformation. And these days, she is more drawn towards the disability law studies. Academically, she has contributed many articles, research papers, and has also authored a number of books. She has been constantly engaged in seminars, conferences, and workshops. Since the beginning of her career, she has been active in focusing on law in action and has worked actively for women, girl child, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, poor, and backward classes. And also she had worked on the disability. Especially in Bareilly, she worked through an NGO, Jagar. She has done the notable socio-legal work on various issues. Recently, under her guidance, lots of students are doing research, as well as they are also engaged in raising legal awareness in the vicinity of the university, because there are so many villages which has been adopted by the university, and she is contributing to that in disseminating the knowledge of law. And right now she is more drawn to rehabilitating the disabled students of the university through her various programs of skill development for such students. Dear Shefali, she is also my dearest colleague, and I am not able to see her. Where are you, Shefali? Shefali is not there. She lost the connection.
She is here. She is here.
On my laptop, she is.
No, she is here.
No, she has left the meeting. It is showing.
Just saw her.
It happens in Google Meet. Sometimes the people lose their connection in between. So anyhow, she is our honored guest of this particular national webinar, as well as the keynote speaker, and she will be speaking threadbare on the issue of girl child that is facing the problem of existence as such. So I am very happy and proud to have both the esteemed legal scholars, academicians par excellence, as the chief guest and keynote speaker of the program. Once again, I welcome Professor Vandana Chauhan Sarji, Vice Chancellor, Dharmashastra National University, as chief guest, and we are looking forward to your lecture, sir. as well as to Shefali Yadav, Dean and Head, Shakuntala Mishra National University, for her keynote address. With these few words, I thank you all lot. Thank you, Rashida.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for presenting your very impressive thoughts on the theme and also for introducing our very esteemed and knowledgeable guest. And now, in the list of experts, we are having an in-house expert having an international fame, known namely Professor Priti Saxena, ma'am, the director of CPGLS and the professor of Department of Human Rights, School of Legal Studies. And ma'am was also busy somewhere, but she has gracefully given time and accepted the invitation to express some views on the theme. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Rashida. Good evening to Professor Chauhan sir, the dynamic Vice Chancellor of Dharmashastra University, Jabalpur, Dr. Shefali, my very beloved colleague, the colleagues from the Department of Human Rights and School for Legal Studies, the university as a whole, dear students. We know that National Girl Child Day is a day to promote the awareness about the rights of the girl child and to generate awareness on the importance of the girl education, health, and nutrition. But the question is that it is only a calendar date, 24th January. We know that, as our colleague Dr. Shashi Kumar also told, that this is on the initiation of the Ministry of Women and Girl Child Development. That is, since 2008, we are commemorating this day as a National Girl Child Day. And the theme for this year is Empowering Girls for a Better Tomorrow. बेहतर कल के लिए लड़कियों का सशक्तिकरण. और कुछ इससे मिलती जुलती थीम हमारी हेड ने भी आज के इस वेबिनार के लिए रखी है. We know that in India, gender inequality is one of the major issue, and that need to be focused in the areas of rights, education, medical care. Then we see marriage, security, and many more areas where the participation of each gender is very much required, and it is constitutionally guaranteed also. We all know that there are laws, including the guarantee of equality in the supreme law of the land that exists, but gender inequality always exists from, we can say, from womb to tomb. At every stage, there is inequality which can be seen by everyone. Now, the dignified life, which is guaranteed in the preamble, equality and special provisions for women that are given as a fundamental right, social economic promotion for women and children as a fundamental right, and as a directive also for the states to renounce derogatory practices as a fundamental duty. All are there, guaranteed and given in the Constitution of India. But we see that besides this constitutional provisions, there are plethora of laws which also provides or guarantees equal protection and that prohibits discrimination, but the inequalities exist. अगर हम देखते हैं बच्चियों के स्वास्थ्य के बारे में बात करें तो बेटियों के साथ इलाज करवाने में भी भेदभाव है. आज ही के न्यूज़पेपर में मैं देख रही थी कि यूनिसेफ की जो स्वास्थ्य विशेषज्ञ हैं डॉक्टर कानुप्रिया सिंघल, उन्होंने एक डेटा प्रोवाइड किया था जिसमें कि 37% जो बच्चियां हैं उन्हीं को अस्पतालों में भर्ती किया जाता है, सरकारी अस्पतालों में, जबकि ये आंकड़ा जब निजी अस्पताल प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल्स में देखते हैं तो वो मात्र 25% रह जाता है. और बेटियों को तो यहाँ तक कि परिवार में अगर देखा जाए वो परिवार वाले उनको अस्पताल में भर्ती ही नहीं कराते हैं. हम स्वास्थ्य की बात कर रहे हैं. ऐसे भी उदाहरण उसमें दिए गए कि कुछ तो 2-3 दिन बाद बच्चों को छोड़ के वापस चले जाते हैं, भाग जाते हैं. कुछ कहते हैं पैसा नहीं है इलाज के लिए. लड़कियों के मामले में ये लड़कों के साथ नहीं होता है. तो बहुत जरूरी है कि उनको, बेटियों को सुरक्षा दी जाए. उनको एक संगठित प्रयास की जरूरत है और इसके लिए बहुत जरूरी है कि बेटियां आत्मनिर्भर हों और उसमें आत्मविश्वास बढ़ाना जरूरी है. उनकी सामाजिक सुरक्षा के लिए हमें प्रयास करने बहुत जरूरी हैं. तो जहाँ तक स्वास्थ्य की बात है, ये एक भेदभाव चल रहा है जो पुराना नहीं, आज भी देखा जा रहा है. इसके साथ ही साथ अगर हम नेक्स्ट उस पर देखें कि बेटियों के जो शिक्षा के अधिकार हैं, उनका जो खेल का और उनका जो हर तरीके से एक तरीके से कहना चाहिए कि डेवलपमेंट और विकास की बात अगर हम करते हैं, तो बेटियां शिक्षा में, खेल में, व्यवसाय में, हर क्षेत्र में परचम लहरा रही हैं। लेकिन सबसे बड़ी बात आप ये देखें कि उनकी संख्या कितनी है। इतनी बड़ी जनसंख्या में बेटियों की संख्या कितनी है, ये एक बहुत ही गूढ़ प्रश्न है जिसका उत्तर जरूरी है। बेटियां जो हम देखते हैं को एजुकेशन में पढ़ेंगी और बेटियों को स्कूल नहीं भेजा जाए, ये एक संकीर्ण मानसिकता है, आज भी कई जगह हावी है। हम देखते हैं कि शहरों में तो थोड़ा इस चीज को अब हम उभर पा रहे हैं, लेकिन अभी भी कुछ ऐसे रिमोट एरिया हैं, कुछ रूरल एरियाज हैं जहां पर बच्चियों को शिक्षा का अधिकार नहीं प्राप्त हो रहा है। जैसा मैंने कहा, वोम टू टोम जो हैं, बच्चे पैदा होने से पहले से लेके और मरने तक उनको हर जगह जो भेदभाव दिया जा रहा है दिखाई पड़ता है हमें समाज में। तो वो सारी चीजें एक हम देखते हैं सोसाइटी में आज भी बहुत ज्यादा हो रही हैं, और इसके लिए जरूरी है कि जो परिवारजन में एक मानसिकता फैली है, जो मानसिकता संकीर्णता है, उसको दूर करने की, परिवार में ये आत्मविश्वास जगाने की कि किसी भी तरीके का भेदभाव जो बेटियों को न सिर्फ सुरक्षित करता है बल्कि समाज और राष्ट्र के विकास के लिए भी एक बहुत बड़ा अभिशाप है ये। तो बेटियों को आत्मनिर्भर बनाने के लिए, जिससे बेटियां सुरक्षित हों, न केवल बल्कि उनका कल भी बेहतर हो, ये अपने आप में बहुत जरूरी है। और आज ही के एक न्यूज़पेपर में मैं देख रही थी कि उत्तराखंड सरकार ने हरिद्वार की एक बिटिया है 17 साल की, सृष्टि गोस्वामी, उसको आज एक दिन के लिए मुख्यमंत्री बनाया है उत्तराखंड का। तो ये कहीं ना कहीं एक प्रयास है जो कि जरूरी हो गया है। मुझे लगता है कि हम लोगों को देखना चाहिए कि किस तरीके से बच्चियों को हम मेन स्ट्रीम में लाएं, उनको कैसे सड़क से उठा के, क्योंकि जो स्ट्रीट चाइल्ड हैं वो भी अपने आप में, जब गाड़ी से मैं आती हूँ देखती हूँ बहुत सी बच्चियां हैं, छोटी छोटी सी लड़कियां हैं भीख मांगते हुए और सड़क पे घूमते हुए, तो उनके साथ किस तरीके के अत्याचार नहीं हो रहे होंगे, अभी डॉक्टर मिश्रा ने बताया। तो वो सारी चीजें हैं, हम उस पे कैसे उसको चीजों को इम्प्लीमेंट करें जो हमें लॉज मिले हुए हैं। हमारा जो एक कंसंट्रेशन है वो इस एरिया पर होना बहुत जरूरी है, क्योंकि ये कैलेंडर डेट नहीं रह जानी चाहिए, बल्कि कहीं ना कहीं प्रयासों की आवश्यकता है। जमीनी स्तर पर उतरकर हमें इस पे कुछ प्रयास करने होंगे, जिससे कि बालिकाओं का जन्म एक अभिशाप न रह जाए, जो फीमेल फेटिसाइड है और जो साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी के डेवलपमेंट की वजह से उसका मिसयूज हो रहा है, मुझे कहना चाहिए, उस मिसयूज को हम रोक सकें और महिलाओं को, बच्चियों को जन्म देने का अधिकार, उनको जन्म लेने का अधिकार, वो सारा का सारा सुरक्षित हो। इसी तरीके से हम अपना बेहतर कल बना सकते हैं और उनको एम्पावर करना जरूरी है, उनको स्कूल में शिक्षा पाना जरूरी है, उनको हर तरीके के जो राइट्स मिले हुए हैं उसका पूरी तरीके से उनको दिया जाए, ऐसा कहीं ना कहीं उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करना जरूरी है। और बिना ज्यादा समय लिए हुए, क्योंकि हमारे 2 गेस्ट हमारे साथ हैं, मैं अपनी बात यहीं पर समाप्त करना चाहूंगी ये कहते हुए कि बेटियों को आत्मनिर्भर बनाना जरूरी है, इसी से उनमें आत्मविश्वास बढ़ेगा और वो एक बेहतर कल की तरफ आगे बढ़ेंगी, एम्पावर होंगी। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
थैंक यू मैम। संकीर्णता परिवार से मिटनी चाहिए और प्रयास जमीनी स्तर पर होने चाहिए। Thank you, ma'am, for highlighting the very practical concern and issues relating to a girl child protection. And now in the series, I want to share with you people that I have been very fortunate, even in the previous academic discourse, to be the part of the deliberations of Professor Shefali Yadav ma'am. And every time she has justified her task in a marvelous manner. So this time also we are looking forward for having a very inspiring, motivational and thought-provoking lecture. So with this now, I very humbly invite Professor Shefali Yadav ma'am, the Dean and Head of Shakuntala Mishra National Rehabilitation University, Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh, for presenting her views on the theme. Ma'am, please. Professor Shefali Yadav ma'am.
Thank you. The President of the program, Honorable Vice Chancellor BBU Lucknow, Professor Sanjay Singh in absentia, the Chief Guest of the webinar, respected Professor Balraj Chauhan, the Vice Chancellor of DNLU Jabalpur, and also my teacher, my mentor, my guide, respected Professor Preeti Saxena,
patron of the webinar, and director CPGLS BBAU, and also the mentor and guide of my better half. Professor Sudarshan Verma, patron of the webinar, Dean SLS BBAU, and also my dear friend, Professor Preeti Mishra, director of the webinar and HOD of the Human Rights SLS BBAU, and also my dear senior colleague, Dr. Shashi Kumar, the organizing secretary of the webinar, Dr. Rashri, coordinator of the webinar, Dr. Rashida Athar, the master of the ceremony, and also all the participants of the webinar. Greetings of the day. I feel privileged to have been given an opportunity to express my views on the theme, Saving Girl Child for Posterity and Prosperity. भावी पीढ़ी एवं समृद्धि हेतु बालिकाओं की सुरक्षा. I believe that not only this topic, but nearly all the topics of law are of socio-legal nature. As law is a social science, and also because any law's understanding is not only incomplete, but also is irrelevant if it is dissected and segregated from its social context. I'm not denying that law is also universal, but most part of it is produced by the society. And also everyone will agree that as is the society, so is the law. Law not only generates from society, grows with the growth and strengthens with the strength of the society, but also can act upon society, can work on society as an instrument, and can be believed to change the society. Savini, Graham Sumner, and Ehrlich, who approached law as an aspect and part and parcel of society, would have never believed that law would be more ambitious by the mid of the 20th century and be used to restructure, plan, or encourage social change. Today, law is an instrument of social change in the hands of powerful state. Just give it a thought. Thoda sa sochiye. Law was born in society. Law was born in society and now be taken to act upon society. It is difficult to discern. But with limitations of being only external, law is external, but with limitations of being only external, it takes time to be imbibed and change the mindsets. It can be accepted to an extent. एक सीमा तक स्वीकार कर सकते हैं that by the instrument of law in India, girl child can be saved. Girl child should be saved, as the civilization will not survive for long. If it is not done, and humans be an extinct species one day. Eliminating girl child is like cutting a branch on which one sits. But challenge is how to change the mindsets of the patriarchal society. We all have gathered here to reflect over the problem. First and foremost, we need to feel sensitivity as to what we really have been doing that needs to be changed, to be done away with. While pondering over the topic, these lines came to my mind, which can stimulate and agitate our minds perhaps. बेटियां, सच है अनमोल कृति, प्रकृति की बेटियां, सामाजिक कालिक से कलुषित हैं बेटियां. सच है अनमोल कृति, प्रकृति की बेटियां, सामाजिक कालिक से कलुषित हैं बेटियां. 12 हफ्ते होते ही मृत्यु की आहट से, 12 हफ्ते होते ही मृत्यु की आहट से किससे कहें, कैसे कहें, जिबे होती बेटियां. सच है अनमोल कृति, प्रकृति की बेटियां, सामाजिक कालिक से कलुषित हैं बेटियां. भूल से जन्मी जो दूध पे हक नहीं, भूल से जन्मी जो दूध पे हक नहीं, पाली नहीं जाती, पल जाती हैं बेटियां. सच है अनमोल कृति, प्रकृति की बेटियां, सामाजिक कालिक से कलुषित हैं बेटियां. गर्मी की सर्दी तानों की असीसी में कोल्हू सी पिसती निखर जाती हैं बेटियां. सच है अनमोल कृति, प्रकृति की बेटियां सामाजिक कालिक से कलुषित हैं बेटियां। खुद की किताब नहीं, खुद की किताब नहीं, कलम दवात परवाह नहीं, भेदभाव सह के भी जीत जाती बेटियां, सच है अनमोल कृति, प्रकृति की बेटियां सामाजिक कलिक से कलुषित हैं बेटियां। जिए या मरे चाहूं और वार सहती सी, ग्रहमान रक्षा में हवन होती बेटियां, सच है अनमोल कृति, प्रकृति की बेटियां सामाजिक कालिक से कलुषित हैं बेटियां। नपुंसक पुरुषों की लाजहीन कर्मों की भाग्य रेख मेटती शक्ति प्रतिम बेटियां, सच है अनमोल कृति, प्रकृति की बेटियां सामाजिक कालिक से कलुषित हैं बेटियां। सुरक्षा न्याय का सर्वाधिक महत्वपूर्ण पक्ष है। Security is the prime objective of justice. Securing the children and especially a girl child is international concern. Let us now focus on India's international obligations of saving girl child. Commonly, India is obligated to ensure it abides by its international obligations, including United Nations core human rights treaties, especially CEDAW, Convention on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, and CRC, Convention on Rights of Child, and International Bill of Rights consisting UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and 2 international covenants on civil and political rights, and economic, social, and cultural rights. Other relevant international instruments include ILO treaties and regional obligation like SARC Convention Against Trafficking in Women and Children, 2002. UN Charter on the Rights of the Child, 1989, is the most comprehensive document on the rights of children. Its key accomplishments are manifold, like it creates new rights of children that previously had not existed, like right to preserve his or her identity, indigenous children's right to practice their culture, children's right to be heard in proceedings that affect them. It also replaced non-binding recommendations with more binding standards, especially with reference to adoption procedure and the rights of disabled children. United Nations has adopted 2 optional protocols to the CRC, Convention on Rights of Child, in 2000. One is very important from the point of view of saving girl child, and that is Sex Trafficking Protocol. This Sex Trafficking Protocol also addresses issues of forced labor, adoption, marriage, and organ trade. Another protocol is involvement of children in armed conflict. This Sex Trafficking Protocol recognizes that girl children are at greater risk of sexual exploitation. It expressed concern over the growing availability of child pornography on the internet and other evolving technologies. It also provides for protection and assistance to the victimized children in the criminal justice process. It also provisions for strengthening of international cooperation with regard to sex trafficking children. India ratified CRC in 1992 and also ratified these optional protocols in the year 2005. In spite of growing concern, girls in India face intersecting discrimination on the basis of gender, age, class, caste, race, ethnicity, social, economic, religious, cultural, and other factors create mountainous obstacles in the lives of them. And because of these obstacles, they can't avail their rights, though we have a very good legal framework for the rights of girl child in India. Let us first see the birthright of a girl child. There's the birthright of a girl child. India is a classic example of technology killing girls by sex determining technique. We all know the concept of censorship in India, and we are well familiar with this, that Indian society does not need, does not require, does not want, in fact, the daughters. It needs only sons. The PNDT Act came into being in 1994, Prenatal Diagnostic Technique Act. It came into being in 1994 with the objective to prohibit technology to determine sex of the fetus, leading to female feticide in India. It is a draconic law and does not offer much escape. The fundamental requirements of law are the registration of the ultrasound centers as well as of the radiologist is very important so that it can be regulated, it can regulate well. Written consent of pregnant women and prohibition of communicating sex of fetus. Maintenance of records is very essential under this act by the radiologist. The board is there, board of prohibition on sex determination is there, and very significant point here is that use of portable machine of ultrasound is not possible. This has been prohibited. The machine where it has been registered is to be used only on that center. The portability of the machine is not possible. It cannot be taken elsewhere. Collector of Kolhapur has in fact developed an invention, a sort of external device, which was known as SIOB. It was silent observer, and this was to be used in the USG machine and for the purpose of filing a form online, reconsidering all images of the sonographies. The use of this machine was actually challenged in the court of law, but the court allowed. Another act which saves the girl child and is very important from this perspective is MTP Act 1971. It allows termination of free pregnancies by registered medical practitioners with the consent of the pregnant woman. Only pregnancies that are a threat to the physical and mental health of a pregnant woman, or there is risk of physical and mental abnormalities in the child, can be terminated. Otherwise, termination of pregnancy is punishable by law. Another right to education. We all know that Article 21A of the Indian Constitution guarantees right to education to children and of course to girl child. Every girl child has a right to free and compulsory education between the age group of 6 to 14 years under the RTE Act 2009. The objective of law is that each child receives quality elementary education, irrespective of their social, economic, or caste backgrounds. Right against child marriage. This right is very important from the perspective of saving the girl child. The Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006 replaced the Child Marriage Restraint Act of 1929 or Sharda Act and provides a civil as well as criminal provision to prohibit child marriage in India. On the petition of an NGO, Independent Thought, in 2017, the Supreme Court gave a very landmark judgment. In this case, exception 2 to section 375 of the Indian Penal Code, which permits sexual intercourse with a girl child aged between 15 to 18 years only on the ground that she has been married. The Supreme Court criminalized sex with a minor wife and stated that a child remains a child, whether married or unmarried. It meant that husband can be prosecuted for rape if the girl, the wife, child bride, if complains within an year. Another important right against sexual exploitation is given by law. Patriarchal social structure, economic exploitation of aggressive male sexuality are the common reasons attributed to these deviant acts against girl child. Child prostitution is dealt with under Immoral Traffic Act 1956, whereas offenses like kidnapping for immoral purpose, outraging the modesty, pornography, procuring, sale or letting for hire, rape, and unnatural offenses are punished by Indian Penal Code. POCSO is another very important law. Protection of Children for Sexual Offences Act was passed in 2012 and is a very child-friendly law. It's a comprehensive law that provides protection to children from the offenses of sexual assault, sexual harassment, pornography. It also safeguards the interest of a child at every stage of the judicial process, incorporating child-friendly mechanisms for reporting, for recording of evidence, investigation, and speedy trial. Another right is very important, and that is right to care and protection of girl child. The Juvenile Justice Act Care and Protection 2015 includes special provisions for the protection, treatment, and rehabilitation of girls under 18 years. This act protects girls trapped in brothels for child prostitution and protects any person engaged in an immoral, drunken, or depraved life. Juvenile justice welfare boards address the problem of neglected girls and offer special protective homes and supervision by the probation officers. Also, there are numerous programs and schemes of government. Central government has introduced many schemes like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. The objective of this scheme has been to save the girl child by gender-biased abortions, survival and protection of girl child in infancy, and also it ensures education and participation of girl child. Another very important scheme is of Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana. This is again a central government yojana. It's a special government-backed savings scheme where girl child is primary account holder. Secondary account holder is the parent. Investments can be made for 15 years. This was for the financial security of the girl child. Then there is Balika Samriddhi Yojana. It's a scholarship scheme to provide financial support to girl child below poverty line. And the objective is to improve her status, obviously. Then there is CBSE Udan scheme. It focuses on to increase the enrollment of girls in prestigious engineering and technological colleges across India. Another very important scheme run by central government is National Scheme of Incentives to Girls for Secondary Education for the benefit of girls of SC, ST and OBC classes. UP state government runs a very important scheme introduced perhaps in 2017, Kanya Sumangala Yojana, and this provides a fund of rupees 15,000 to every family where a girl child is born. This money is released in phased manner for the health, education, and other aspects of a girl child. What we can assess with the above discussion is that we have a good legal framework from all the three aspects of governance, the legislative, the executive, and judicial in India to save the girl child. But then that much change is not seen. Where the problem lies. Where the problem lies. Making people go through law is possible, but only law imposed cannot bring the change. The change should be willed and initiated from society. Law is an externality, can influence external conduct, but internal real change of minds is gradual. It will take time. The power of changing the social environment, protecting girl child, valuing a girl child is only superficially concentrated in the hands of law and the state. In reality, it is in the hands of society. In reality, it is in the hands of society, is in the power of the society that brings change gradually through evolutionary process. There are many factors that limit the law. Political preferences can limit the law. Overambition of legislature can fail. Lack of survey, acceptance, and enforcement problems are there. Ethically, law may not have limitations. We feel that ethically law has no limit at all. Ethically, law may not have limitations, but practically, in action, actually, the law has limitations. Let's see the limitations. Law is an external agency and it works outside the people. Law is to be enforced by people. It cannot move by its own. The people will have to come and bring the law in motion. That is another limitation. Difficult to ascertain the facts. We all know that it is very difficult to know the facts. Obviously, who will report abortion due to sex determination? No voice of the victim. Problem of proof, where the victim has no voice, and we know that proof is very essential in law. Law cannot be a substitute for morality. We will have to understand this. Some morally important rights and duties defy law. Law cannot be a substitute for morality. We will have to be moral. Let the child live. Let the girl child survive. Can't we address this through morality? Why are we just wishing the law to come and coerce us, and this way we'll be able to save our child, a girl child? all the fields are not fit for law to entirely regulate, especially the private matters, as in the case of saving the girl child. Then problems may occur due to bureaucratizing and legalizing the moral social relations. This may also happen. This may also happen that a day will come when all the social relations, the moral relations will get a bureaucratic color. Is it possible for law to manage everything through its, is it that law potent? Is that much law potent that it can regulate all the kinds of affairs? No, it is not. So these are the limitations of law. A few strategies can help. Let us see which strategies can help us in saving our girl child. Conjoint normative approach. We know law is not the only normative order. There are other normative orders also, like morality, religion. Of course, law is quite potent, but it's not that only law can save the girl child. So religion, morality, ethics, education. Education can be utilized to protect and save the girl child. Indirect use of law can foster social change. Everybody accepts this. The sociologists accept this, and of course, the legal sociologists also accept this, that indirect use of law, not the direct use, but the indirect use of law can foster social change. How can we use law indirectly to bring the social change? Restructuring education system. Since beginning, we will have to teach our boys to respect the girls. Unless and until they are taught unless and until it is in the school curriculum, the formal education they won't be getting at home. There are different kinds of homes. Maybe the boy will not be that much sensitive to respect the girl. Protection and encouragement of stakeholders. Mother of a child is to be protected. The reporters are to be protected. The whistleblowers are to be protected. Law may provide institutional framework. Law can provide institutional framework like the boards, the commissions, the agencies to promote policy goals of saving the girl child. Law may emphasize legal duties, not only rights. We will have to see what our duties are. It's not only that we keep on crying for rights and rights. We can further reflect on conditions under which law can effectively influence behavior and perhaps the attitudes of the people. I think this is very important. If I'm not taking much of the time, we can further reflect on conditions under which law can effectively influence behavior and perhaps the attitudes. Source of law should be very authoritative and prestigious and justified. Like we all know in India that legislators don't enjoy that much of prestige as the judiciary enjoys. So the source of law, let's take an example of sexual harassment of women at the Workplace Act. There it is actually effective at workplaces now, and this came from judiciary. So source of law should be very authoritative, prestigious, and justified. Another point, law must be compatible with culture and tradition. Here, with the help of our culture and tradition, at one pole is the sonship concept, at another pole is that women are worshipped in India. So we will have to clarify that if women are worshipped in India, this is it is in line with, in harmony with our culture and tradition that we save our girls in our society. Pragmatic models for compliance must be identified. We can take the examples of the matriarchal society where the girls are being given importance, and those societies are much better and safe places for their girl children in comparison to our patriarchal society. So we can take the real models, the pragmatic models as an example, and this can be disseminated. Building of public opinion through media, talks, lectures. And let me tell you one more thing that is very important, and that is conscious use of the element of time. In Nirbhaya case, what happened? This kind of thing happened. We all know what Nirbhaya was. And then everybody, those even have no knowledge of penology or criminology, they all started educating there should be the capital punishment for rapists. They don't know, we all know there are various factors how a person is to be penalized, why a person is to, but then because the time was such that everybody talked about that we will have to take some action against a rapist. So time is very important. When the change is being introduced, how the change is being introduced, whether the environment is ripe to introduce the change. This is very essential. Then the positive sanctions. I think not only the negative sanctions, but the positive sanctions are equally important, like the grants, the subsidies, the incentives, the rewards. There is one more thing. Enforcement agents, the police, the judicial officers, the executive officers must be committed to the behavior required by law. If they flout the legal norms, the masses are going to follow them. They should act like an example that this is the law and we follow the law. So not only positive sanctions, but the enforcement agents must be committed to their behavior required by law. Incentives must be there for whistleblowers, for reporters. In the end, remembering Parsons' system theory, that society is a big system. And within a big system of society, there are subsystems, the smaller systems like law, economy, polity, religion, morality. These are the subsystems in a big system of society. It is not much appreciable to think that a subsystem, which is a creation of a big holistic system, can change the whole system. It is too much expectation from the instrumental role of law, which is only a subsystem of society. Autopoiesis theory also attacks legal instrumentalism supported by N. Lehman and G. Tubner, and it explains that law cannot operate to provide direct input to steer social life. This steering is to be in the hands of the society itself. Direction and change should come from society, not from the law. Law cannot engineer, cannot produce development and social change directly. Though there are limitations, but we, the students of law, do believe that law brings social change. We have viewed that law has brought social change. We can take the example of sati prohibition in our society, or we can take the example of sacrifices in our society. Human sacrifices have ended now. A girl child can be protected through law, can be saved through law, as we have no other option. This can be submitted here at the end by me as a keynote speaker, that law can give immediate relief. Law can hold for the time being till the change comes from the bosom of the society. The change is to come from the bosom of the society, but till then, the law can hold till this change comes from the bosom of the society to genuinely protect our girls, to genuinely save our girl child. In the last but not the least, in the words of K. Ramaswamy Justice, Honorable Justice K. Ramaswamy, children are innocent, vulnerable, and dependent. They are all curious, active, and full of hope. Their life should be full of joy and peace, playing, learning, and growing. Excluding good foundation of life for the girl child is a crime against humanity, and humanist approach is embedded in Indian culture. Our civilization will not prosper, will not survive if the girl child is not saved. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for exploring the international, regional, and national legal framework for the protection of girl child as well as women too, and also for suggesting their strategies for securing the socio-economic and political justice of girls in India. And now the time has come, what we all were waiting for. But first of all, I thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation in spite of your very busy schedule. I want to share my feeling with all of you that for the very first time, I had an opportunity to listen the very views of sir in one of the national seminar in 2009, when our department had organized national seminar on human rights. And believe me, it was as good as best as it could be. So very humbly now, without taking any time or much time, may I invite our chief guest, Professor Balraj Chauhan, sir, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, DNLU, Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh, for his deliberation. Sir, please.
Thank you, Rashida. Thank you, Preeti, for very nice words. Dr. Sudarshan, Dr. Shefali, Dr. Preeti, Dr. Shashi, and all the members of the organizing committee. At the outset, I would like to congratulate you all to organize this webinar on this very important topic, saving girl, child for posterity and posterity. For posterity and prosperity. Empowering girl for a better tomorrow. Believe me, when Shefali was speaking, then I was feeling very happy from inside, because Shefali has raised many important issues in one go. Because on one hand, she is telling the importance of law. On the other hand, she is concluding that no. The transformation is not possible alone from the law. And you know that when there was a revolt against the mechanical jurisprudence in the 19th century, which is known as the legal fascism. And it was only after that sociological jurisprudence emerged. And the relationship between the law and society started being discussed, debated, and researched. Law is the creation of society. Society is not the creation of law. Law should be able to reflect the consciousness, ethical values of the society, otherwise it will fail. What is the social reality of law? That is very important. You see, this debate. But today we have assembled. We are going to celebrate the 72nd Republic anniversary of our nation. 72 saal. 72वां साल. Going to highlight the achievements we have made. Our women officers in the army, police, professors, doctors, and today we are discussing a particular theme, and we are going to extremes. I know that for a progressive and a developing country like ours, vibrant legal culture is sine qua non. However, it is expected from the law and the legal institutions that they will be able to provide opportunities for the development of to both men and women. I think that the discussions which we are having today, because I was just thinking what I am going to speak, but Shefali has provided me theme, and really I am thankful to Shefali. You have really served your job, and purpose has been served. The points which you wanted to raise, you have nicely raised. And I'm sure that Dr. Preeti Mishra will be happy after this webinar to create some knowledge on this particular issue. The whole discussions which you have made here, I would like to put that in two questions. Number one, I was just taking the note. How does one evaluate the quality of life of an individual or a society? Number two, how can one judge the goodness of social arrangements or of public policies, rules, and institutions or norms and conventions that affect the life of the people? You were mentioning. And I also know when I was just preparing for this interaction, I was not having much time. Then I tried to just go through the legislations. I found that the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012 is there. Protection of Children from Sexual Offences 2019 is there. Protection again 19. Addendum to Standard Operating Procedure for Missing Children, Juvenile Justice Act 2015, Infant Milk Substitute Act 2003, Prohibition of Child Marriage 2006, Commission for the Protection of Child Rights Amendment 2006, National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights 2006, Dowry Prohibition, Indecent Representation of Women, Commission of Sati, Protection of Youth, so many legislations. You think for a problem, some legislation is there. And you mentioned that law is the barometer of the society. You agree with it or not? Law is the barometer of the society in a democratic welfare state. Law reflects the problems as well as initiative taken by the government for that particular challenge, problem, malady. You may call it by any name. And when I'm asking these two questions, I think that the answer to these questions are of interest, not only in themselves, but also as guides to enlighten actions by individual as well as society as a whole. And here, the role of the law schools, role of the Human Rights Center starts. Researchers who are attending this particular webinar, I think it is the time to go through a dialectical process of engagement with thinkers. Thinkers like thinkers of past and present. And I may suggest, because Aristotle, Adam Smith, Karl Marx, John Stuart Mill, Immanuel Kant, these are of the past. And John Rawls, Kenneth Arrow, Bernard Williams of the modern era. Why I'm taking their names? Because the reconceptualization of well-being has a profound impact on how one views the goodness of social arrangements. That is very important. For instance, persistent gender inequalities can no longer be glossed over the utilitarian grounds that women themselves might feel reasonably happy with the status quo. The manifest inequalities in the level of functionings that women experienced vis-a-vis men in many different spheres of the life. For example, because again, I tried to just find out discriminations from childhood to later age. So, girl child form of discrimination, female infanticide, you talked about that. I will come to that because I remember one thing, Professor Dr. Preeti was talking. Now she is professor and very good researcher. But I remember, Preeti, you remember that when I asked you to join Vatsalya,
Yes, yes, sir.
Vatsal was the NGO which was working on the this PNDT Act. Dr. Neelam Singh and Dr. SN Singh, they were running this particular NGO. And that was a time, you know, in 94, 95, when the advocates, doctors, they were not knowing about this legislation. And this small NGO started because Mr. Matthew, who is responsible for bringing this particular legislation, he was visiting, and I was very much impressed by Mr. Matthew. And when this NGO started, I gave full support, and we were engaged. And I remember that Dr. Preeti did a lot of work for the Vatsal, and she collected the data. She met with the doctors, others, and tried to create an opinion. Because even today, I remember, I had a long discussion with Dr. Sarosh Srivastava. You know, Dr. Sarosh Srivastava is a very renowned gynecologist of the Lucknow city. And she was against this legislation. In IMA meeting, she had a confrontation with me. She said, "What, Dr. Chauhan, you are talking? If a woman is having 3 daughters, and again, it has been found that she will give birth to a 4th daughter, should she not go for the abortion?" I said, no. Why she went for it? If she is willing to have a 4th son, then she must have a courage to bear the 4th girl also. Otherwise, she should not. And we had a long discussion, and only for that, she joined law. You know, she did LLB.
Yes, she did LLB, yes, sir.
Yes, yes, under me, with me. You just talk to her. And then she agreed with me when I showed her reports, and we were discussing it continuously. And afterwards, she became a very good ambassador to promote the cause of the girl child, and how to save the female fetus in the womb. But I'm telling you that selective abortions, female genital cuttings, honor killings. So when I say that persistent gender inequalities can no longer be glossed over, the utilitarian grounds that women themselves might feel reasonably happy with the status quo. The manifest inequalities in the levels of functioning that women experience vis-a-vis men in many different spheres of life, adequately nourished, you talked about it, being educated, or being able to take part in the affairs of the society, should suffice for the status quo to be treated with the moral aphorism. More generally, the fact that excessive social system thrives by making an ally of the victim. Oppressive social system. I want to attract your kind attention. Please make distinction between social system and the oppressive social system. Law never tries to come in conflict with the social system. You know, even today, we will find very less examples where the law is interfering in the family or otherwise. But this oppressive social system, similarly, according to me, because I'm trying to give it a shape, today you have raised this point, and I'm very happy, Shefali. You have just been able to ignite me and give me a fresh thought, because we say, you have stimulated my intellectual appetite. Stimulation I found from your speech. There is a social order, there is a legal order. Legal order is based on the constitution, acts, ordinances, regulations, rules, full legal order. And as you said, source of authority. Law must have a good source of authority. It is there. Evaluation system is there, judges, justice, courts, it is all there. But social order. Social order consists of customs, traditions, folkways, practices. It is all there. Social system and legal system, if they are in consonance, there is no problem. Law is accepted. Society will welcome the law and there will not be any problem. But when the social order comes in conflict with the legal order, sometimes what happens, the law is trying to correct the oppressive social system. You may call it the curative law, because if you will read Amartya Sen, and when he talks about the utilitarian theory, then he is talking about the consequentialism. He is talking about the welfareism. And he is talking about the sum up. The same thing is here. We are having abundance of legislation. Palki Wala said the right thing. Lot of legislations, but very little action. Lot of legislations, very little action. And I was just thinking when you were speaking that Dr. Preeti is the head of the department of the Human Rights Center. Dr. Sudarshan is the dean of the Faculty of Law. What is the difference between the two? Department of Law and Department of Human Rights are same or different? And if they are same, then why you are having the two institutions under one university? Preeti ji, I am throwing this question for your...
Sir, I am law in action, sir.
And
My department is bringing law in motion, sir.
Law in motion. Very good, Preeti. How it will bring the law in motion? Theoretical discussions. I'm very happy, Preeti, that you answered this question, and I'm very happy. I could tell you that next year I will be happy to join you on the same day, 24th January 2022.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
And I will like to find out the contribution of your department into the lives of the girls. Status of family. Try to find out the status of family. Try to find out how their parents are treating them. Try to find out, have they been able to keep dreams on their eyes or not. I remember I was organizing a legal aid camp in Kakori. And in one of the village, when I was telling them about the bad effects of the child marriage, and I was telling it is not good and it will happen. You see, this is the lady who did this because she could study. One old lady stood up. Even today, I'm having his face in front of me. Believe me, it's a fact. My students knows it very well, what I'm saying. And she stood and she asked me, she questioned me. बाबूजी, कबाऊ गांव में रहे हो का? मैंने कहा अम्मा क्या पूछ रही हो? गांव में रहे हो का? कबाऊ अकेले औरत के साथ लड़की रख के देखी है छोटी बेटी? कितना मुश्किल है गांव में रहे वो। बिना कुछ कहे Then I asked her, Mataji, do you think that by marrying her, you will be able to get rid of all your problems? And she answered, no, I know after marriage, she will be having a family, she will be having, but I'm having nobody. Before me, there. And why girls are not safe? Why you are giving the instances? Shashi Kumar ji was telling about Hardoi, Preeti ji was telling of some other. Yes, these are the cases. But the question is what to do. All men are not devils, but all men are not angels even. The parents, are they aware how they should develop, how they should nourish, how they should grow their own children? And human rights centers, it is not law in action because human rights are not legal rights. I believe in the definition of the Jose W. Diacono, who said that the human rights are more than legal concepts. They are what makes a man humane. You deny them, you deny man's humanity. So, Preeti, the moment you will realize it, take one issue, take one case, and socio-legal is, this is the time for the socio-legal studies. This is the time for the social legal surveys. In nearby villages, you can go for, and you can find out the status. That will be your first-hand information. And slowly you will submit the project to the government. You see, you will get enough funding from ICRC, from UGC. I can assure you, you prepare the project on it, and Human Rights Center should do only the projects, and project teaching is important. But the scientific research, using the scientific methods, because the fact that the oppressive social system thrives by making an ally of the victim who might willingly acquiesce in the perpetuation of the system under the influence of the false consciousness and the adaptive preferences, no longer gives ground for according moral approval to the system in a way that the calculus of happiness might otherwise do. Most of the time it is said, when you will see status quo, women are happy. No, भैया, हम तो बिटिया को घर में रखे हैं, वे कहते हैं घर के बाहर ना जान दो, इसका आगे शादी कर देंगे और ये कर लेंगे. Is there anybody to counsel them? Is there anybody to change their? And I am sorry to say, Preeti, if you can do one thing, please do it and tell me in next meeting next year, training of the Anganwadi workers.
Sure, sir, we will prepare a project.
You can train them. Just Shefali, you and Preeti, Sudarshan, excellent team, yaar. And you are researchers like Rashida.
We have noted. I have noted it.
Yeah.
Even I gave a proposal to the Shefali also for the coordination of the departments. You remember?
Sure. Yeah, why
Go
not?
ahead, Shefali, you can do wonderful work on it. I tell you. And your findings will be interesting. You will learn new things when you will go there. Of course, I know it will be, it will affect your time.
We will learn, sir. We will learn.
So, in my opinion, as a student of law, we should try to understand the principles. I will again request you to read more about Amrit Sen. I'm referring here Amrit Sen, which lies at the foundation of the social system evaluation. Regarding the social system evaluation. Number one, emphasis on the need for incorporating informational diversity in the structure of analysis. Very important. Informational diversity. Number 2, advocacy of the notion that no moral system may be capable of using a complete evaluation in a world characterized by an irreducible plurality of values. कहते हैं ना, बाहर जो देखते हैं समझेंगे किस तरह, कितने गमों की भीड़ है एक आदमी के साथ. Irreducible plurality of values. So many values. Nowadays, I am regularly watching 2 serials. One, Ahilya Bai, and second, 9 months. I don't know whether
Sir, both these serials.
you are watching them.
Yeah, both of these, sir.
And both, one of historical importance,
Yeah. And one is
and another modern, IVF.
Yes.
After taking divorce, she is going for pregnancy
Yeah.
and choosing.
Oh, IVF, sir.
It's a very important issue.
Yeah, I know.
Is it possible? You see the area where we are living and the families in which we are moving.
And especially for unmarried ones, sir.
So, right. But here the question comes. She is having a right. And this right is her power. And it is coming to her through law. Not otherwise. Society is not providing this right to her. So, and she is ready to fight for that right. Can we prepare a cadre of women? Can we prepare a cadre of mothers? Can we prepare a cadre of fathers who can convert these rights into reality? All these legislations, they are providing rights positively or negatively. The government is trying, because Government of India declared 24th January as a Girl Child Day in 2008. But the United Nations also declared in 2012. 11th October is the International Girl Child Day. This problem is not national, it is international. And why it is international? Because when Preeti, today was very hard day, but I was thinking how I will start. You see, you are always nervous when you have been invited by your students, because if I am invited by somebody who don't know about me, or so no expectations and nothing, you can go and you can come back. So I was just focusing, how will we start? I will start with the American Declaration of Independence, because it was in reference to the American Declaration of Independence, the first concerted assertion of the rights of women came in the form of the Declaration of Sentiments in 1848. American Declaration of Independence was made in 1776. But this Declaration of Sentiments in 1848, when under the leadership of Elizabeth Cady Stanton, women demanded equal rights, and the declaration asserted, because by this time right to vote and other rights were not available to the women. They asserted, I quote, that all men and women are created equal. They have been endowed by the Creator certain inalienable natural rights, that these rights are right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Language is the same as that of the American Declaration of Independence. The only difference is in 1776, in American Declaration of Independence, only the word man was used. Only the word man was used. And it was saying just that all men are created equal. But Elizabeth asserted, and from this started a new journey, a new transformation, a new revolution. Yeah, you all are blessed, fortunate, educated, intelligent. The only thing is, are you able to think so that you are able to enter into the lives of those people who need your support and help? Theoretical understanding won't do much. The only thing is that you must have a deep commitment for the democratic values. Of course, that is most required. And the second thing, because nowadays I am reading Amartya Sen a lot. And I believe when he said, I quote him, there is something deeply attracted in the idea that every person anywhere in the world, irrespective of citizenship or territorial legislation, has some basic rights which others should respect. Instead of talking so many things, if we can convince people there are some basic rights of your newly born child, basic rights of the child who is going to be born, basic rights of a 3-year-old, and you are expected to respect that. Positive rights. You see, we are just talking about the first generation. In our country, if the Human Rights Center, I know within 5 years, your center will be identified as the best center for promoting the cause of justice. Preeti.
With your blessing, sir, we will flourish. With your
I know. You people can do anything. This I believe, and I can only say that I am always with you. So I would like to conclude with my observation that all human rights protect and promote certain freedoms of individual members of the society. This is important. Human rights, they are to protect the freedoms of the members of the society. Please listen attentively. All human rights protect and promote certain freedoms of individual members of the society, those sufficiently valuable for the society as a whole to be included as its foundational norms. The classical approach following Huffield, Shefali is a student of jurisprudence also, so she will, of identifying rights and claims of interest, liberties, powers, and immunities, and even means to achieve them, can be effectively subsumed under the notion of freedom. Indeed, in accordance with Sen's approach, it is now possible to identify each of the rights recognized in the Universal Declaration and in the covenants with a freedom in a manner that enhances the appeal of the right, or what Amartya Sen describes as its social influenceability. Dr. Shefali, you were talking about the conventions, you were talking about the protocols, but this is the gist of that. Social influenceability. It involves, now you are having both. It involves both the opportunity and the process. These human rights are providing you opportunity and the process. Aspects of freedom, implying that both the outcomes and the process of the realizing them must be consistent with the human standards. That is the purpose. While rights are claims to freedom, remember it, while all rights are claimed to freedom, not all freedoms can be claimed as rights. Jurisprudential, they must be important enough to justify others in accepting the obligation to fulfill them. And the third aspect, I think, the third aspect of human rights relates to the corresponding obligations. Who are having the corresponding obligations? In classical human rights theory, based on Hofield claim rights and the interpersonal approach, any right claimed by a party entails a correlative duty of a second party, the performance of which will ensure the fulfillment of that right. In this classical approach, the obligation usually rests with the state authorities. I agree that basically the state is responsible. As most rights are seen as negative rights, such as civil and political rights, which can be secured quite feasibly by negative duties, such as non-intervention or withdrawal of the state action. The perspective has changed significantly in the modern approach to human rights, as rights once recognized by society are seen as the basis of the justified claim that a society has a duty to protect. We say it literally, society has a duty to protect, but to prepare that society to accept this duty is the work of the Human Rights Center. And from the perspective of the state authorities, becomes one of the agents, while the role of other duty bearers is no less important. The state authorities are recognized as primary duty bearers. So, dear Professor Preeti, Professor Shefali, Professor Preeti Saxena, and all the learned participants sitting here, today is the day, and especially the scholars and the students of the human rights and the law department of the Baba Bhimrao Ambedkar University, Lucknow, should take an oath to know more about the relationship what the Shefali raised. Relationship between the law and society. Interaction between the law and society. If the law has not been or is not being able to change, transform, because transform is a very big word, and the literature which is there. So, but at least you can start with these small projects, and you try to find out what is the social reality of a particular law, and what is the legal reality of a society. Every day we are talking about the fundamental rights. Try to find out how many rights are available to the people. Whether those rights are still illusion or they have become reality, and what is the problem, how they can be converted into reality. Of course, I am sure, I am hopeful that you all are young, dynamic, and you are having a very good team. I am impressed, Rashida, by your pronunciation and the presentation.
Thank you, sir.
And Preeti, thank you very much for providing me this wonderful opportunity. I wanted to be with your faculty. Sudarshan tried once. Chadha, I don't know whether he is here or not. SK Chadha.
He is not here.
Sir, I'm here, sir. Good evening, sir. I'm here, sir. Very soon we will be also organizing a seminar, sir, webinar, sir.
It's
Good
okay.
evening, sir.
It's okay, Professor Chadha. When
Sir,
I'm
very soon we will be having a webinar, sir.
it's okay. I only say that today is the day.
Sir, नहीं sir, I will be keep in touch with you, sir. Or very soon, in February itself, we will be organizing one seminar, sir.
Thank you. If you are here, then I am very happy, beta. And
so kind of, sir, you
Priti, and give my regards to your Vice Chancellor.
Sure.
Right, sir, right.
Last time he invited me, but I couldn't join. So tell him. And I'm always open for criticism, for critique. Shefali, you are ready to discuss with me and criticize me, whatever I have said. But I really like your presentation, and you forced me to speak so much. Otherwise, I was having an easy note for the evening. So I thank you once again, and thank you all for inviting me and providing me the best opportunity to share my views on this auspicious, I will call it a very important and auspicious day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Before Rashida invites for a formal vote of thanks, I would personally like to thank Professor Balla Chauhan Sarji, my teacher, my mentor, my guide, my friend also, because his attitude has been like a friend only, because we never felt that we are under the pressure of a teacher when we were discussing the things, and we discussed the issues on very, very ground level also. So which just cannot be
here I'd like to share one thing. We are friends, but one day she came to me and she asked me, sir, I have been selected as the associate professor of the Indira Gandhi National Law University.
Yes.
And I was very excited. And at the time she was in college.
Maybe you also.
Yeah. When I said, you must join immediately. No, sir. I will not go anywhere. I want to teach students.
Yes,
National Law University is a university.
Remember one sentence that teaching always makes you young. You never feel old. Yeah.
So
One is always young in thought, sir. Thank you very much, sir. It was really a pleasure and a matter of pride to have you here as the chief guest of the program. Though our Vice Chancellor could not join, but he has given his blessing to all the participants of this webinar. So in absentia, I thank Professor Sanjay Singh ji also. Now, Rashida, you took over and call for the formal vote of thanks.
Okay. Before calling Dr. Ashri for proposing the formal vote of thanks, I want to mention certain things that sir very rightly made very good and great remarks that lots of legislations and very little action. And this is the time to have a socio-legal research. Sir, on behalf of the department, I would like to very happily share this to you that most of our students are working, the PhD research scholars are working on the socio-legal issues. So thank you very much for thought-provoking, enlightening, what to say, informative, mesmerizing deliberation, and for touching upon the government initiatives and the role of law and human rights centers, organizations, and departments to contribute in elevating the status and condition of daughters in country, and definitely that explored the various aspects to ponder upon. So thank you very much, sir. And now, last but not the least, I would like to invite Dr. Ashri to propose, who is also a coordinator of the webinar, to propose a formal vote of thanks. Dr. Ashri.
Thank you so much, Rashida madam. Namaskar, I am Captain Dr. Rajshri. Honorable Vice Chancellor Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar University, Professor Sanjay Singh sir. Honorable Vice Chancellor Dharmshastra National Law University, Jabalpur, Professor Balraj Chauhan sir. Respected patrons of the webinar, Professor Sudarshan Verma madam, Professor Priti Saxena madam, respected Professor Shefali Yadav madam, Dean and Head Dr. Shashupta Mishra, National Rehabilitation University, Lucknow, respected Professor Priti Mishra madam, Director of the webinar, respected Dr. Shashi Kumar sir, Organizing Secretary of the webinar, respected Dr. Rashida Athar madam, my dear students, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. On behalf of organizing team and on my own behalf, I extend a very hearty vote of thanks to Professor Balraj Chauhan sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, DNLU Jabalpur, for gracing the occasion and giving your precious time from busy schedule and enlightening us with the knowledge and mesmerizing and eye-opening address. Sir, thank you so much, sir. A big thanks to Professor Shefali Yadav Madam for her efforts towards webinar and enlightening our audience with your thought-provoking address. Thank you so much, Madam. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Honorable Vice Chancellor Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar University, Professor Sanjay Singh sir, for giving us opportunity to organize such a big event. Sir, your blessings and directions are always required. Thank you so much, sir. I would like to thank our patron, Professor Sudarshan Verma Madam, for welcoming our guests and directing for this webinar. Thank you so much, ma'am. Our next patron, Professor Preeti Saxena Madam, for her valuable suggestion, direction, and putting facts regarding the concept of this webinar. Thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to extend my thanks to Professor Preeti Mishra Madam for putting lots of efforts towards this webinar and working day and night for making this webinar a success. Thank you so much, madam. I would like to thank Dr. Shashi Kumar sir for presenting the theme of the webinar and his support towards this webinar. Thank you so much, sir. I would like to thank Dr. Rashida Madam for conducting this webinar in such a beautiful manner. Thank you so much, madam. I thank the media team for making this program live on YouTube and Facebook, social media and print media. Thanks to all students, faculty members for their presence. At last, thanks to all persons who directly and indirectly involved in this webinar and extend their help and support. At last, I am concluding my vote of thanks with the 2 lines. सशक्त महिला की यही पहचान, मुश्किल से न होती परेशान. इस शक्ति से ही बनेगा मजबूत समाज, तभी बनेगा हमारा भारत महान. नमस्कार, have a nice time. जय हिंद, जय भारत. Over to Rashida madam.
Jai Hind. What to say? Should you all leave with the permission of director?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for
Have a wonderful time.
yes, sir.
Bye bye.
Thank you for your kind words. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. We are much obliged, sir. Okay, thank you all. Thank you all.
And congratulations
and all the participants.
to Professor Preeti.